We've also got the company of Claire Pissell, former Conservative government advisor, who's been with us throughout the show. And we're now given the pleasure of the company of one Peter Cardwell, talk presenter and political commentator.
Hi, Julia.
Joining us. I was sorry. Hi, Julia. That sounded really fair. Hi.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
I bumped into Rupert Bell in the building and
Yep.
I said, this is my Cheltenham Gold Cup, the spending review.
Oh, yeah, you guys love all this stuff, don't you? Well, we're going to get a spending review. We won't take it live. I can't do 45 minutes of Rachel Reeves speaking. You're going to be watching it and giving us all the important bits. But we are going to take a bit of PMQs. Keir Starmer already on his feet, but we're going to wait for Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition, to ask her questions. And then, of course, Rachel Reeves will be at half at midday. We're going to talk about what we're going to hear from the spending review. Also going to be talking about where we are in terms of the NHS. They're going to get a whacking great sum of money. Is it going to do anything about waiting lists? Probably not, we're told. Don't forget, by the way, if you miss anything on the show, you can always go to my YouTube page. You'll never guess what they've come up with as a title for it. We paid consultants a fortune for this. It's called The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. That's how you can find it on YouTube. Thank you for laughing. I love you for that. Hit subscribe so you never miss a thing. Now, we're going to go straight right now to... PMQs in about 30 seconds. So, Peter Cardwell, in PMQs, though, on the day of a spending review or budget, doesn't really matter, does it?
The trick is not to ask economic questions because the answer from the Prime Minister is always just hold on about 25 minutes and you'll find out. So I would imagine Kemi Badenoch will go on other matters. But
we know everything is fine because the Chancellor and the Prime Minister keeps saying they fix the foundations of the economy.
It's all fine. Yeah, everything's wonderful.
Price, everything fine. Do get in touch. Love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. Anything you want to say. Your thoughts on PMQs, what you're expecting from Rachel Reeves and all of that. We're going to be talking to Jamie Jenkins, who's a former Office for National Statistics and analyst, about where we are with the NHS and indeed those job stats showing 250,000 jobs have gone from the economy in the last year, which doesn't suggest to most of us who can do this funny old thing we used to have called maths, that the economy is growing. That's largely not what is normally happening. We've heard from builders saying, look, there's no building going on, people are being laid off, people involved in demolition, a caller pointed out earlier, saying that you have to demolish sites before you can build new things, and they are cutting back, so things are not looking good. But there's huge sums of money that are going to be announced for lots of different departments, aren't there, Claire? We're told, but no one knows yet where that money's coming from, and we're not expecting to be told today.
We're not, and it's quite interesting, and I think you alluded to it earlier, is that some of the figures that we're given are over 12 months, some of them are over 3 years, some of them 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
So
that's 39 billion for social housing, but it's over 10 years. Well,
yeah.
Does anyone seriously think, including Rachel Reeves, she's going to be Chancellor in a few years' time?
Well, I think they do.
A year's time?
I think they're holding on to the fact that they think they're going to be in power forever and ever. I think they're going to be
Well, you've put
mistaken.
everyone on the payroll. This is what Gordon Brown did when he was under...
Put them all on the payroll.
Didn't he? Put everyone on the payroll.
Yep.
All right, we're going to go straight to Kemi Badenoch asking her first question.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Prime Minister knows something I don't know. There's only one hospital in my constituency. But Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, since Labour took office, Mr. Speaker, inflation has nearly doubled, growth has halved, and unemployment has surged. Is this what the Prime Minister meant when he tweeted that the economy is improving?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, since the general election, 500,000 more people are in work. And I know she doesn't mention that. She's fixated on talking Britain down. We're investing in the future. Mr. Speaker, even in the last 2 weeks, the Strategic Defence Review, 30,000 new jobs building submarines. Yesterday, the sizable announcement, 10,000 new jobs. Tens of thousands of construction jobs building the social and affordable housing that was announced this morning. That's the difference that Labour makes in government.
Mr. Speaker, he must be talking about a different economy. All of us in this House heard about unemployment increasing. Unemployment has increased every month since Labour took office. Last year, he said he was taking the winter fuel payment away to balance the books. But the books are not balanced. In fact, they are worse. This year, the deficit is forecast to be £10 billion higher since the budget. Not since last year's election, since the budget. In what way are the books now balanced?
Mr. Speaker, she's obviously missed the interest rate cuts, the growth figures for earlier this year, the huge... the Strategic Defence Review, local transport, £15 billion going in, free school meals, Sizewell, social housing. Mr. Speaker, but she stands there to lecture us, and I say Liz Truss is obviously back in vogue, advising reform officially now, haunting the Tories, and I remind her that the Shadow Home Secretary, I think he was then Chief Secretary to the Treasury, he gave the Liz Truss budget, Mr. Speaker, 9.5 out of 10. The Leader of the Opposition said what was wrong with Liz Truss's budget was not necessarily the package, that was all right, it was the way it was sold. They've learned absolutely nothing.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, he loves talking about Liz Truss because he loves talking about Liz Truss. Why? Why? Because he wants to hide from his own economic record. He's a coward. He's a coward. Every time he stands up there and talks about Liz Truss, it's because he is scared about talking about his record and what is happening to the economy out there. Let's bring it back to the U-turn which he's running away from. A U-turn on a policy that his MPs went out defending time and time again. Let's go through what's happening here. 1 minute, they said it was right to take the winter fuel payment away, that there might be a run on the pound. The next minute, they said it was right to give it back. This is laughable. He stands there all puffed up and self-righteous. Why can't the Prime Minister just admit that he made a mistake?
Mr. Speaker, they left a £22 billion black hole that we had to fill, and that's why we took the right decisions. We've stabilised the economy. That's why we've seen 4 interest rate cuts. The triple lock is committed to on this side. They say it's unsustainable on that side. That's £470 for most pensioners and good Q1 growth. 3 weeks ago, I said that I wanted more pensioners to be eligible for winter fuel. I'm really pleased. We set out the threshold and the certainty that is needed. And she says I don't want to talk about my record. What about free trade deals, record investment, free school meals, breakfast clubs, social and affordable housing, defence review, Sizewell? We could go on all morning, Mr. Speaker, but we've got the Chancellor who's going to say even more in a minute. Mr. Speaker, I think she at the weekend said that she would be getting better in the role. She could start with apologising for the Liz Truss budget. That would be better.
Mr. Speaker, I get better every week. He gets worse. Yes, he gets worse. Last week, Mr. Speaker.
If you think that is a good look, it is a very bad look. And think twice before you try to shout somebody down in that way.
Mr. Speaker, last week he had to get his lines from the Russian embassy. I think we all know that he is getting worse, and what he does not want to talk about is how he is going to make the economy better. That is what the people out there want to hear, and he's got no answers. His trade deals have unravelled. The Strategic Defence Review, everyone out there is asking where is the money coming from, and the fact is he doesn't know how to balance the books. The Chancellor says the winter fuel payment U-turn won't be funded through higher borrowing. So will the Prime Minister admit that it will be funded by putting everybody's taxes up?
Absolutely. Yep.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think she let slip on the Matt Ford programme the other day that she rehearses her fury for PMQs. So a very good rehearsal this morning, I think. Mr. Speaker, she asked what we're doing. At the budget, we put record investment in our NHS and our public service. Record investment. And she comes every week to carp on about national insurance, but she doesn't stand there with the courage of her convictions and say she'll actually reverse it. And the reason she won't, because she won't stand up and say she's against the investment in the NHS. She won't stand up and say she's against the investment in our public services. And we'll all listen very carefully in just 20 minutes when the Chancellor lays out more record investment as to whether they welcome it or whether they say they wouldn't support it.
Mr. Speaker, every week I come here to tell him the truth. The truth that the economy is in a spiral because Labour, that's all of them, Labour put up taxes that cut growth, and we all heard the Prime Minister, he didn't rule out tax rises, so they are going to have to put up taxes even more. This is a spiral. And if that wasn't bad enough, Mr. Speaker, if that wasn't bad enough, this morning we heard that because of his terrible Chagos deal, Mauritius is scrapping income tax. Why on earth should the British taxpayer pay for £30 billion for tax cuts in Mauritius.
Mr. Speaker, Diego Garcia is a vital intelligence and strategic capability. And it's absolutely clear that legal uncertainty would compromise it in very short order. That is why they started the negotiations in relation to it. And no responsible Prime Minister would let that happen. We've secured the base for the long time. That has been welcomed by our allies, by the US, by NATO, by Australia, New Zealand, India. It's been opposed by our adversaries, Russia, China and Iran. And in the second column, we add reform, following Putin, and the Tories following reform.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows this has nothing to do with national security, but his bad negotiating. I've had the security briefings. It was a bad deal before, and it's still a bad deal. And then in half an hour, the Chancellor is going to stand up and tell us that everything is fine. But the truth is, she has made bad choices. Bad choices that mean higher inflation, bad choices that have led to lower growth, bad choices that have meant that jobs have been lost every single month since Labour came into office. That's hundreds of thousands of families who've lost their income in Stoke, in Grangemouth, in Luton. Those are their constituencies, businesses across the country. The Chancellor has lost all her headroom. She's fallen out with the Cabinet. She's making unfunded spending commitments which she promised not to do. Isn't the truth that we have got the wrong Chancellor and the wrong priorities?
The wrong choice they made was making her Leader of the Opposition.
Richard Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
OK, well, Richard, there's a good opportunity to come out of PMQs. Richard Bergen's on his feet. I mean, that was a signal if there was one. That was quite lively. Again, there is no love lost between those two people, the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister. By the way, Keir Starmer, should you get to watch this later, if you go to my YouTube page, and you really should, you'd learn a lot. It's not morning, mate. Twice you said morning. It's this afternoon. It just really irritated me. Peter Carbon, let's come to you first in terms of that exchange. Kemi Badenoch went, winter fuel budget. You were saying that you'd be wise ahead of a spending review not to go on economic matters, but she went.
She did it in general terms, and of course she'll respond to later on. We'll see what she has to say in regard to the spending review. But certainly there was a lot. It was quite sort of high level stuff. It was quite personal at points. She was talking about him being puffed up and being arrogant, essentially. I don't think we learned an awful lot from that. We know that
wait, what? PMQs where someone didn't answer the questions or didn't learn a lot?
Hard to believe. But no, certainly, Keir Starmer, I think, mentioned, it was Clary pointed out that he mentioned Sizewell, I think 4 times that announcement yesterday. He kept talking about all the different jobs and so on that people would get. Look, I don't think this was particularly edifying, although I think what people will remember and what people will comment on is Kemi Badenoch saying, I get better every week. First of all, don't really say that, and second of all, I don't think it's true. Sorry.
Yeah, Claire, you and I, Claire Pearsall, obviously your former Conservative government advisor, we both sort of winced when she said,
Whole body cringe. Whole body cringe.
But I'm so much better. I disagree. I think she has been coming out fighting and she's looking more energised. And I think there's a lot of people behind the scenes saying, she's got to come out with the same level of energy that Robert Jenrick, of course, the man who came second in the leadership contest, has been showing. His videos, goodness me, that video he did when he was tackling fare dodgers on the London Tube.
15 million views online.
I mean, huge.
15 million.
Really, and again, the classic, the people going, why is he doing this? Because he's a shadow justice secretary, it's reasonable. But yeah, I thought she rather undermined herself with that comment.
Yes, she did. You never go out there and do that. You never go and say, well, I'm getting better. Don't puff yourself up when you're accusing someone else of being puffed up. Don't do it. You just need to go out there. You need to be consistent, and I think that's what she doesn't have at the moment, is consistently coming out with the right level of questioning and the right energy.
And there's that difficulty with 6 questions, isn't it? I mean, remember the horror of Jeremy Corbyn standing up. Or did wrong foot Prime Minister at the time when he first said, when he would say, so I've had an email from Jane in Corby, who and you couldn't guess what the questions were going to be. Made it very difficult to prepare for. But I think, the Prime Minister would have prepared for stuff on the economy today anyway. But he said she's fixated with talking the economy down. I mean, we all guffawed at that point, didn't we, Peter?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think that Kemi Badenoch wants to do that at all. I don't think Keir Starmer wants to do that. I think it was a ridiculous
that was
comment.
the criticism of Labour when they came in and said, the economy is in dire states, £22 billion blackhole. You mentioned that again. You can feel the groans even on Labour benches when they do
Certainly, and that was their strategy when they came into the election, and that didn't work out well for them. Now they're talking about how they fix the foundations. Everything's absolutely perfect, all those interest rate cuts. I don't think the public's buying it. And what Rachel Reeves was talking about at Cabinet this morning, actually, was saying that she needs to make sure that people feel the change that Labour is implementing, that people feel
people
better.
Talk about obviously people feel it, but it needs to be real.
Yes, of course, of course.
You know,
it
can't be a trans economy that we feel that it's better. It needs to be better. We need to have more money in our economy, in our pockets. We need more money in our bank accounts. We need to be able to not wince when we get to the till in the supermarket or when you put fuel in the car.
I identify as rich.
You identify?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Good if that made it true.
Yes. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, I am a Prosecco socialist. Not even neither. But anyway, but again, coming back to you, Claire. Kemi Badenoch, well, he raised, the Prime Minister raised Liz Truss, saying, Liz Truss is back in vogue. They know that that's very powerful. And Kemi Badenoch says, he loves talking about Liz Truss to hide from his own economic record. The Liz Truss issue is a very big issue. Lots of people who've been paying attention will point out that, borrowing costs are higher now, and what we're having to pay on those 10-year gilt deals is higher now than it was when Liz Truss budget came out. We know that the huge sums of money that were the concern for that were, they hadn't squared the circle with the OBR, but also prepared everybody in advance. But also, crucially, that huge sum of money to bail out people for their fuel costs because of the energy hike. But that does still seem to work. That is something that people remember. People have mortgages. People saw their fuel bills go. They remember that budget. It was, that's got cut through that criticism.
But only for a certain period of time. Now, Labour shortly are to be in power for a year, and there are only so many times you can bring up the Liz Truss budget.
£22 billion black hole.
I wasn't going to mention it. I was going to say
bingo.
The other thing that we'll... and it is a matter of bingo. But there are only certain times that you're allowed to use these things. And I think even his own benches are starting to go, we need to move on from this, because the public are also going to get fed up and say, going on about a black hole, well, what have you done? Going on about Liz Truss, well, what's Rachel Reeves done for me? Because I feel poorer, or whatever it is. So that you can't use it indefinitely. So it's going to need to come up with some new lines eventually, sooner rather than later, let's hope. But don't keep going on about Sizewell and those jobs, because they aren't there yet. They're not real jobs.
And they won't be there for a decade. And again, that'll be over that entire period of time.
Precisely.
And this is a problem for Rachel Reeves.
15 years.
Yes.
This is a problem for Rachel Reeves later on today, when she says things like, we're going to build 1.5 million homes over the course of this Parliament. We're putting money into that. Well, you're not. I mean,
you're already behind schedule.
You're already massively
But
behind
even like
schedule.
the £39 billion announced for extra social housing, over 10 years. You're not going to be Chancellor in 5 years' time. Frankly, even in a year's time, it's questionable. And it's only $4 billion a year. I know, I can do maths. I mean, I wish she'd done. I didn't even work at the Bank of England at any point as an economist. But it's $4 billion.
But it's on your CV.
It's on everyone's CV,
Are you a solicitor as well?
Yeah, I was a solicitor, and I was a Bank of England economist for 10 years.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and you get better every week. So, it's all there.
Hey, you can't improve on perfect. Even I didn't believe that when I said it, by the way. But thank you for laughing again. I love having him in the studio. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's just I think Claire makes a really valid point there. Just even the Labour backbenchers, they go, hold on a minute. Yeah. They also know they've got the threat. And again, this is the interesting thing. Even Keir Starmer, in a Q&A he gave earlier this week, when he's talking about, and Rachel Reeves as well, they talk about reform. Not the Tories. The Tories, what they do, what they say, they're saying that's irrelevant. They're dealing with reform, and a lot of those backbenchers, there are very few seats where it's Labour versus Tories fighting it out. They are fighting reform in a lot of their
And
cases.
this again shows how incredibly important Prime Minister's Questions is. Most people don't watch it. Most people see a clip on the news or whatever.
We don't normally throw it.
But Kemi Badenoch, this is her one time of the week where she's guaranteed attention. She's struggling to get that attention elsewhere. Reform are getting a lot of
But it's also about
attention.
shoring up your backbenchers, saying, hey, but
I'm
again,
in control.
I get better every week. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 12:22 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get to your messages. Then, of course, Rachel Reeves will be on her feet at 12:30. Do not worry, we won't take it live. We'll bring you all the details. I think that's a fair compromise, guys. You don't have to listen or watch her, but you get to know what she's saying. Yeah, you're welcome.